Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwak Amimo. Now, controversy and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC, seem to go hand in hand. This week, the Commission surprised us all by telling the National Assembly it had started registering voters. The IEBC also said that it was broke, and that's why it was unable to publicize the ongoing voter registration. Well, Acting Chief Executive Officer of the IEBC, Betty Nyabuto, is our guest on Cheche this morning. We also have Mutegin Jao of Royal Media Services and David Makali in the studio as the Cheche panel. Good morning and welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks very much.
Voter registration, controversy. So take us through this. When did it actually begin?
Well, the Commission continues voter registration.
Right.
I want to first clarify that this is not a fresh registration.
Right.
This is continuous voter registration as envisaged in the Constitution, Article 88. It's actually our core mandate, and it began on the 15th of April this year.
You say continuous voter registration, and yet I don't know, it sounds confusing to me, because were you registering voters, say, last year after the elections, November, December? Why, do we have voter registration, whether it's continuous or not, happening and we're not aware of it?
The Commission is tasked with our responsibility of continuous voter registration. After the general election, it's public knowledge that we had some petitions filed in court.
Yes.
And as the law provides, when you have a petition in a particular area, you cannot have continuous voter registration taking place. And therefore, we had to dispense with these petitions and then kick off with continuous voter registration, which is our core mandate. Now, this is not, just like I heard one of the members of parliament say, this is not a fresh voter registration, but it's continuous, and we are targeting young adults, those who are over 18 years old. We are targeting those who did not register during the registration period in 2012 when we opened the registration process. We are also targeting those who want to either clarify or correct their details in the register. And this is also a session for, or rather a time for the Commission to also clean up its register.
David, you want to come in?
Well, yeah, a bit interesting there to say continuous. That's a controversial statement to make.
Yes.
Continuous since when? Because as far as we can tell, there has been no continuous registration. In fact, that has been one of the persistent demands of people or politicians in this country, that ought to be happening. We never knew it to be happening until you went before the the Parliamentary Commission committee.
Yes.
So it's been continuous since?
Like you said again, since 15th of April, that's when the Commission...
This year?
Yes, this year. That's when we started it off. Of course, like I said, after the general election, we had petitions, and as the law envisages, you cannot disenfranchise some people by saying, let there be continuous voter registration when we have enclaves of areas having petitions and by-elections therefore. So we had to have a clear, and that's why we began on the 15th of April. And it's constituency-based. So we have our constituency elections coordinators running the show, and we have the biometric voter registration kits at the constituency offices. And
okay, so I'm going to belabor this point just to ensure that we understand it clearly. Continuous voter registration did not take place because of the elections and because of the by-elections and petitions taking place, but these were not across the entire country.
They are not across
you
the
had
entire
about 125 cases, which most of which were thrown out, and so why do you wait until April 15th, last month, to begin the exercise?
Yes, we had to wait until they were thrown out, and we also had to have our stage set out ready. The Commission has various preparatory issues to come through.
Such as?
Yes, for example, to make sure that the biometric voter registration kits are all aligned, put together, and we are ready now to receive the data. But like I said again, this is not an exercise that is supposed to have taken place to disenfranchise certain people. And the Commission has the mandate to...
Well, you're talking about the suspicions. Let's just clarify the processes you need to go through and why it is that you weren't able to let the country know that, you had resumed the continuous voter registration.
Well, I think it's a misnomer to say that the country did not know, because at the constituency level, where this is taking place, our constituency election coordinators have been going out to the barazas, they've been going out to public forums, They've been going out to schools, colleges. They've been doing a lot of sensitization at that level. Again, like we said in Parliament, we're constrained for resources.
Okay,
Because
I'll
like
just
you
stop you
remember-
right there, because the parliamentarians themselves said that they did not know that voter registration was taking place in their own constituencies. But it also contradicts what your team said before the National Assembly, which was that you did not have the, enough money to publicize the exercise.
We did not contradict ourselves. When we were in Parliament, in fact, amazingly enough, there was a member of Parliament who said he's actually up to speed with this exercise, right? So we have members of Parliament who, of course, say they do not know, but we have some who already know that it is going on. They connect with the electorate, with their constituencies, and they know that this exercise is actually running.
Well, you make an admission,
Yes.
all right, that indeed you failed to do one thing, which was to notify the public generally that voter registration is going on, and people can report at those registration centers.
Well, what I can say is that we did it in the cells of the constituencies.
Yes.
All right? Perhaps not on the national platform.
Okay, in hindsight,
Right.
do you accept that you should have perhaps done it differently, go national, so that so there is no appearance of a stealthy registration going on, which this has turned out to look like?
Well, it's unfortunate it has looked that way.
Yes.
But you see, again, I want to insist that our targets this time, because of the resource constraints, was the constituencies. And you see, it's at that level that now we disseminate the information. We are very active on the social platform as well.
Ms. Labuto, sorry, you're not quite answering the question, which is that there's an appearance of stealth to this. Some parliamentarians have, called it quiet voter registration. You're doing this in secret. Do you accept, given that we've got you now on a national platform, that you could have done things differently? To avoid the perception of any sort of underhand dealings when it comes to voter registration, given the suspicions shrouding voter registration in the past?
I could say this. A national announcement would have sufficed, yes.
Yes.
I agree. However, that is not to say that it's a secret activity. It cannot be a secret activity. Something which is enshrined in the Constitution, done in a public office. I mean, it's amazing that we can actually sensationalize this issue. And that is what we want to debunk here. That this is not a secret registration. And in fact, every 6 months we shall be putting it out at the constituency offices for people to see what...
But isn't there a failure to
question-
some extent if you have people unaware of this voter registration exercise taking place? You say that some people know, but the vast majority, it seems, do not know. We didn't know.
Yes, and when we went to Parliament, what we told the parliamentarians is that we had resource constraints. How would you know? You see,
Yeah,
if
but
today
the
we
question-
have
the
free
question-
resources at your
In fact-
if we stood on a public platform
Yes.
today and said, yes, the IEBC is undertaking continuous voter registration, how many people would get to know this? As opposed to what we had during the general election, guaranteed spots
Yes.
on the media. Yeah, when Manjiko goes to the Shamba, she can hear
Let me say this.
the continuous voter registration is
let's-
going on, right?
Yeah. I think you're right, but there is this point that it could better have been done.
Yeah.
The point is,
Which is conceded.
as even the parliamentarians said, even a press conference to say we have commenced on our exercising our mandate of continuous voter registration, go out to your constituency offices, because a lot of people would not be moved to go to the constituency office to look for details whether the registration has started, because people go to their polling centers where they register. So even the fact that you're registering at the constituency level is still out of reach to many people who would ordinarily want to register.
And that is the reason why we went to Parliament, just before they go for the supplementary to estimates, to say that we need more funds in order to disseminate this information about continuous voter registration. I do agree. A press conference at the onset would have actually perhaps sent the message going round. But what the Commission strategy was to use the constituency offices to devolve this issue right to Wanjiko through the constituency offices and have our constituency elections coordinators going out to the people and telling them, hey, look, this is what we are doing, and using the social platforms as well. And
I don't
using
see
the-
anything on your social platforms, though.
You have talked
It's
about,
very, very active. Yes.
No,
you have
no,
talked
there,
about
it isn't.
constituency.
Yes.
People normally register at where they vote.
Yes, you register where you're going to vote. And now this is a platform
No.
for you to also choose to say where you want to register next time through continuous voter registration. For example, if you register at
What?
Kamkunji, and this time round you want to register in Starehe, This is a platform for you to now change and say, I want to register at this particular polling station in this constituency through this
How will I know?
exercise.
The elections will take place in 2017. And by that time, new polling stations will be created.
No, there will be no new polling stations. You know, the issue of delimitation, again, takes place every 8 to 12 years, as envisaged in the Constitution. So we are not going to change the boundaries. They will not change at all. We are
Polling stations can be moved.
Remain
You can have a polling station from one center to another, from one school to another, which means no difference.
No, what I'm trying to say here is,
Yeah.
once the polling centers are gazetted, unless they're degazetted, they remain to be as they are. And once they're degazetted, you know, that's a platform for communication. But right now, we all know where the polling centers were because were made as, it was public information. But through this exercise of continuous voter registration, you can change from your polling station to another.
So if
Registration
I've just
officer.
finished Form 4 or Standard 8, whatever, I'm a new potential voter, how will I know?
And when we went to Parliament, this is what we told the MPs. We want to use even the medium of schools and colleges, because that's where the young adults are. We want to use the schools to sensitize. Because, you know, if you look at the last general election, you'll find that there was a very dismal turnout of the youth. If you went to many of the polling centers, and I think, David, you do agree, I can see you nodding. It was a very dismal turnout of the
amusement
youth.
at
Yes.
the fact that, look, you went to Parliament
Yes.
to go and lobby for money. You did not go to Parliament to explain that we have commenced voter registration and we need this and that.
Oh, no,
because
we did.
the first place you'd have gone would have been this show, radio stations, to tell the public that, look, we are starting on a voter registration. Wherever you are in the country, go to your constituencies. I don't buy the argument that it was for lack of resources. Very many people will find it difficult. I mean, the commission retreated to Mombasa to do its evaluation of the last elections.
Right.
That wasn't cheap. Getting an ad or even a spot would be much cheaper, even on the public media, to say, we are now starting on this, especially considering, if I may call you Betty, that this voter registration in this country is a sensitive exercise. You would have taken more precaution.
I hear where you're coming from, but I want to separate two issues here.
Yes.
The issue of the post-election evaluation that we had in Mombasa was not
Yes.
funded by the Commission, but we had the UNDP supporting us fully on
Yes.
that issue, apart from a few expenses here and there.
Yes.
However, I do agree that a platform like, say, Cheche, where we could actually have used this to say, yes, we are now kicking off,
Yes.
and nationally we are starting off this continuous voter registration. But that does not mean, and I want to really emphasize, does not mean that what is going on right now is illegitimate or is secret. No.
It's
We
not
can-
just a best practice. That's what
Yeah.
we are saying. It's
Right.
not illegitimate. It's
Right.
legal. But yeah.
You talked about having guaranteed resources during the election, in the run-up to the general election. Have you not had any conversations around continued support for your work?
Of course, we are having a lot of conversations even with the National Treasury. We have a very good working relationship, I must say, with the National Treasury. And moving forward towards 2017, we envisage to get better support as opposed to 2013 general election, where we even now ended up having pending bills as a result of under-budgeting. Yeah.
So then you talk about taking advantage of free resources at your disposal, such as social media. I did check. I didn't see anything, though you say it's active. We've talked about press conferences. We've also talked about, coming, onto television shows, radio shows like this one.
Right.
Is there some sort of failure of strategy within the IEBC itself?
Well, I would not call it a failure of strategy.
What would you call it?
Not at all. I think this time we did things differently. It's only that it has been perceived to be a secret voter registration, which is not. And that is why
Yes,
I'm
and
here
you debunked that.
Right.
We accept that you're not trying to do anything in secret, that
Yeah.
you could have done things better. And so how did this arise in the first place? Did someone within the IBC not sit down and think, we have come under fire so much over the past few months, going forward we must take stock and do things better, and so therefore we must appear in everything we do to be above board? Did that conversation or thinking not take place?
You know, we have very competent constituency
I'm not
election
saying that you don't
coordinators.
have incompetent. I'm not saying that you have incompetent
in
people.
trying to answer-
I'm talking about your
I'm trying to
IBC,
answer that in terms of our
headquarters.
strategy.
Right.
Yeah, that's how it comes in terms of strategy.
Yeah.
Because they're very competent and they're very efficient in terms of the way they do their work. We knew that they would go, they would have this devolved, and they would sensitize people at constituency level. Reason again, like I said, we had constrained resources, 18 million, to divide across 290 constituencies and have all this sensitization
Well, you're
going
devolving
on.
the responsibility to them. I'm
Yeah.
placing the responsibility at your desk within the IBC headquarters in Nairobi.
Strategy.
To say somebody should have thought, yes, the constituency people will do what they need to do, but are we supporting them by being above board in the way we communicate and the way we raise awareness about the exercise?
Well, like I've said again before, we shall, moving forward, make use of such platforms.
Okay.
Right? In disseminating
You
such
say
an
that
exercise.
you had at your disposal for the retreat resources from the UNDP. I know that in this country, voter registration, civic education has always enjoyed support from the donors, civil society. You did not think, again, sorry, we're pressing on with this strategy
it's
issue,
okay.
but the point is you'd have sought the engagement and partnership of civil society to go forth to say, we are embarking on this continuous voter registration. Civil society, where are you? Go out if you didn't have resources. And secondly, the people who funded you to go for retreat, I'm sure I would have entertained another application to fund an awareness campaign.
Yes, indeed. Those who funded us for the retreat are aware that we had this exercise going on. However, again, like I said,
Yes.
the resource constraint is what really was the major handicap. Yeah.
You talked about under budgeting. I think yesterday or this week, I've seen somebody in the newspapers demanding over 200 million shillings.
Yeah,
from
that's
you.
actually not even it. We have pending
270.
bills. We have pending bills of
yes.
5.3 billion.
5.3.
5.3 billion following the general election, and at least we've had 2.7 billion of them validated, and we are working closely with the National Treasury to see that these funds are released so we can pay the various suppliers and vendors who supported us during the general election.
How did the under budgeting take place?
Well, like you well know, when we went to Parliament before the general election, we had a budget of 34 billion. That was slashed tremendously to 17 billion. This was a 6-ballot election, countrywide, same day, all together at the same time. So the facilities and the constraints are the ones that now
This is why you
occasion
find
this
yourself,
pending
right?
bill. Right.
But it's been argued also that a lot of, especially the legal representation that IEBC has got, has been extremely overpriced, more than Anglo-leasing contracts.
Particularly during
Well-
the Supreme Court petition.
Well, I think again that is just
Heavy
another.
bills.
No. I disagree with that.
Yes.
Because the value, and I've said this before, the value of the matter that we had before us was 6 billion. If we did not win the Supreme Court case, David,
Yes.
would have had this country spending 6 billion. And these lawyers were, they defended the commission and they did their work based on a 6 billion principal sum.
300 million, one lawyer billed.
No,
That's
no, no, no,
justifiable?
no. It
That
is
was in the public domain. Was it true or not?
380 million
Yes.
for the team of lawyers that we had. 380. And
For
remember,
6, how many lawyers?
pardon me?
How many lawyers did we have?
We
If
had
you can
14
remember.
lawyers.
14 lawyers.
14 lawyers. And we had, I think we had
380 million, 14 lawyers. I'm
I
just trying
think
to
we're
work out the
thinking we
math
should have,
over
And
14
Pursue
by
days.
the
different
way,
careers.
Over
that
14
is-
days.
That is after negotiations have been done, because this was a big case. This was a
Yeah.
big case. Well, I think lawyers have always been on the spot about their fees,
Yes,
not
yes.
only at the IFBC, but it cuts across. But it's a profession which I think everybody's welcome to join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of financing, because you went to Parliament, the National Assembly to ask for more money, how much are you looking for?
We're looking for 2.7 billion from Parliament. We're looking at 596 for continuous voter registration, at least for this financial year.
But that doesn't cover the gaps in your budget, does it?
Well, it covers our core mandate. You see, we're also trying to work within the austerity measures platform.
Okay.
Yeah, as a commission.
So what
Right.
happens to your creditors then? The people you say you still
Oh,
owe
no,
money?
this is a different discussion. The issue of the pending bill is a totally different discussion, and we are pursuing it with the National Treasury in terms of getting funds from the contingency fund, not from this mainstream budget.
So if any of
Yeah.
your creditors are listening, they should take hope that
yes,
they will
should
get
take
paid
a
at
lot
some
of hope
point.
because, well, of course, we know about these resource constraints even wider in the government. But at least 2.7 billion has been validated, and we can have, including the media houses, we owe them quite a lot, but we'll be able to pay them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to wind up, we've got to take a break, but just to finish up the discussion on the voter registration, it started last month. When does it end, or does it carry on till 2017?
Yes, it carries on until 2017. However, the law is very clear on how it runs. When you have a by-election, 60 days to that by-election, you cannot, you
Register.
ring-fence that area.
Yes.
But 90 days to a general election, again, you stop. and now you start the issue of voter inspection, the voter register inspection, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so this will go on until 3 months into the general election.
So the reports we saw, just to clarify, the confusion, because I saw reports in the media suggesting that the voter registration would end next month.
Well, when you're doing continuous voter registration, I want to clarify this. You must have intermittent sessions where you stop, you pause. Actually, you just pause. It's not stop. You pause, and you reconcile your data, and then you resume.
Okay.
Right.
So in a year, for instance, how many periods of voter registration should we expect to see?
Well, every 6 months we will pause and then resume.
So this current round of voter registration that you're on, does that end next month, or does that carry on for the next
Because the
4 or
financial
so
year is
months?
coming to a close, it will end next month. We will pause and then now resume in the coming financial year.
Okay.
You're
Right.
targeting, is it 2 million in these 6 months, or how many voters are
We are
you
targeting about 2 million. Yeah, we look at the data that we get from the National Registration Bureau, and we're working very closely with such stakeholders, because we cannot work on our own. We're also involving the political parties, so we are working together with other stakeholders.
All right, then,
Yeah.
thank you. This is Cheche, live on Citizen TV. Today's guest is Betty Nyabuto, the acting Chief Executive Officer of the country's electoral body, the IEBC. When we come back, we focus on lessons learned from the last general election. Your questions for her are welcome on SMS number 22422 or on Twitter. Our handle is @Cheche_TV.